more you listen, the more you know. This is Good Politics with Dr. Wilson and Adam Whiteman.
Why don't we transition now and talk about whether this is working? I mean, we've discussed how partisan impeachment works. The real question is whether it's working. You know, we had talked before, like maybe this will backfire and so forth. In order to see whether it's working, why don't you put up pictures number 7, and then in a second we'll put up picture number 8. And for those who are watching on the YouTube video, you can see those pictures. Picture number 7 is showing something rather interesting. It's showing that in the president's favorite poll, Rasmussen, he's down to about 10 points. He was at 53, I think maybe about a month ago. I remember pointing to that on one of our shows. And so it hasn't been that long ago when he was at 53. Rasmussen has him now at 43. Now, some of that is other things. Some of that might be Syria and so forth, what he's done over there. But the bottom line is he's taking on a lot of hits. He's taking a lot of damage every single day. And one of the things that I'm looking for as a political scientist is to watch how these media platforms work. You know, you have platform A and platform B. And on one platform goes the Democrat-friendly messages, and on the other one is the opposite. And it's interesting to see, you know, who's going to win this fight. As of right now, I think the Democrats are winning it. I think it's if it's a football game, Trump is down by definitely more than one score in the second quarter. Also, let's go ahead and put that number 8 up there, picture of Scaramucci tweeting. And again, that's on the video. You can see there, Scaramucci has this theory that, you know, this is the beginning of the end, and he's down at 43 in Rasmussen. And, you know, in that poll, if he gets into the 30s, he's going to be in, there probably would be a movement to try to dump him if that happened. Remember, Scaramucci predicted that he would eventually bag it if he realized he couldn't win. Now, I will tell you, the Rasmussen poll today is back up to 45. But he would much rather have that in the 50s. What is going on in the other samples? In the other polls, he's pretty much low in his normal. In other words, I see him at 40 and 41 in the YouGov samples. I did see a couple at 39. Anytime you see any poll where he's in the 30s, that's bad news. Yeah, that's bad news. So he's losing right now this political fight. But the question is, what's going to happen? I will want to say one other thing. On this issue of Republican defection, I mean, it doesn't take much, someone who knows a whole lot about math, to realize that you don't need that many senators in the Senate to turn on him. It'd be pretty easy. Well, it wouldn't be easy, but it wouldn't involve that many people, 14, 15 senators or whatever, to turn on him. And if they turned on him, then, you know, he'd be in trouble because he's going to need the Senate. They need 2/3 votes, 66 votes in the Senate to kick the president out. And what's happening on that? Well, it's kind of interesting. It looks like the Senate is holding. You know, this was some people had predicted that it might be kind of weak. But there was this resolution circulated by Lindsey Graham, and he was condemning the process. And he sent it out to all the senators. And he got all Republicans except for 3, Mitt Romney, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski, pretty much the most 3 liberal senators. Only 3 Republican senators did not sign it. So that tells me that he still has support in the Senate, and that once this narrative, and that's really what it is, a political narrative, the House is going to have this narrative of egregiousness. They're going to produce a document. There's going to be a vote. And then once it goes to the Senate, one assumes that then that narrative will change and that he'll be cleared once it goes over there.
So when you say that you don't really need that many votes in the Senate to successfully impeach someone and oust them.
Well, in the Senate, you need 66, and the Republicans have, I don't forget what the split is. I think they have a 2-vote majority. So you would need to get a certain number of those Republicans to go vote with the Democrats. So
and they have all but 3 GOP senators.
Yeah. So if these GOP senators hold, if here's the point, if Trump only loses 3 votes, 3 Republican votes in the Senate, the impeachment vote in the Senate is not even going to be close. Okay, and they'll actually have a very simple narrative. The narrative right now with the House is that this guy is, the worst person in the world. The case is going to be about egregiousness. They're going to claim he's a law violator, use all kind of scare words, corruption and so forth.
Yeah.
And then once it gets over to the other side, it's going to be stuff like this. They're going to say, look, this is for the voters to decide. You shouldn't be trying to take away an election. If you don't like this guy, it's perfectly fine. Go down and go vote him down. And if he wins, he wins. And if he loses, he loses. This is about putting this out to the people, and it'll be that kind of narrative. By the way, you're probably wondering what my view is on this. I tend to be in the Dershowitz camp. I tend to believe that the kinds of things that they're complaining about Donald Trump really need to be solved by the electorate. That you put the guy out there. I didn't vote for him. I voted for Hillary, but I have a problem. I really don't like obstructionist politics. But here's the problem: it works. It works.
Yeah.
I mean, it works. And
It's
so
within the confines of the law.
I mean, you can't complain about politics when parties are successful at these things, because as long as they can be successful at them, they will do them because it's very rational for them to do them, knowing that these things are successful. There's no question the other side would be doing it back. Remember how terrible the Republicans were to Hillary in the Benghazi thing. Remember how terrible
it goes both ways.
Yeah, it goes both ways. And so it's not the case that one side is cheating. It's the case that this is politics, and by today's standard, politics is rough. And people like myself and Dershowitz who think it should be, actually based on things and follow rules, and that it should be, that the government should pass budgets, and that they should do things. I think maybe those days are gone. I don't really know.
Now, where does Trump have exposure? Legal exposure. Where is there any other areas where they can still claim that he broke the law, or is it kind of surfaced that he did not break the law? Perhaps did things that were unethical.
What you raise is a very fascinating question, because in order to break the law, you have to have done an act or omission along with the mental state. There has to be something that you did. Let's call it, for lack of a better word, a transaction, an occurrence. You have to have done something. Now, with the case of Trump, they keep looking at all these various things that he's done. They say things like, "Oh, you wanted to fire the special prosecutor. Well, that's not illegal. Okay, you didn't like McCann's recollection of what he was going to testify to. Well, it's not. You made a lot out of that." They say things like, "Well, you colluded with the Russians. There wasn't any truth to that. You committed a campaign violation. No, you didn't." Okay, so what are they doing now? The phone call isn't against the law with Zelensky, but they are trying to find a way to see if there's something in there that they can use other than the phone call. And the latest thesis is something that he did in September. And so they're working on that, but I didn't want to announce that because it hasn't been vetted yet. How can you announce it by having get the facts from a newspaper leak when it's not open to public, it's not open to cross-examination, you can't see what the other witnesses say. So it's like
this could just be a rumor.
Well, it's one-sided information is what it is. And so therefore, I didn't want to announce what it is, but there is something they're going to try to use for September. It goes something like this. It goes something like, before the aid gets distributed, he wanted Zelensky to make a public pronouncement that Biden would be investigated in his country. That's like asking, before I distribute this aid, give me a billboard, but give me a campaign ad. I believe that would be against the law if that were true. But I don't believe that actually happened because, number one, the aid got distributed, and they're under no, compulsion now, and they never made such a statement. And all that they said that they were going to do was audit those files, which is perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with asking the country to audit those files involving Burisma. There's nothing, especially with all these investigations going on. There's nothing wrong with that. What happened is, it's a political fight. I told you, you've got a bar fight going on. That's what's going on.
Gotcha. It's getting dirty.
Yeah. The other thing I want to mention briefly: did you see the president then he was booed at the World Series?
No.
It was pretty loud.
What?
Yeah, I thought that was another indicator. I'll probably put that up there.
Cue a clip of that.
Yeah. Because I think that shows. I think the president's losing. Is my point.
All right, I got to check that out. All right. So, any other finishing touches? We've really differentiated between a institutional judgment of wrongdoing, where they're really evaluating the law, and then versus the opposing party saying, hey, this isn't right.
Right. And
one's a political fight, one's a legal fight.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I'm glad that you caught that. That is a very important distinction. The last thing I close up with is a couple of things. Rudy Giuliani has disappeared. He's not on TV anymore. That tells me something's up there. We'll talk maybe more about that on another show. Trump also backed off of trying to have a G7 summit at Doral at one of his hotels. That tells me also that he's being careful to listen to what those senators say because he doesn't want to make them mad. And he also seems to be backtracking a little bit on Syria, and I think that also has to do with keeping his Senate support. So these are the tea leaves that I'm reading, that he's trying to hold that Senate support and see if he can ride out the storm. It's the best I can say.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Dr. Wilson.
All right.
Your only source for truly balanced politics. Broadcast from Wright State University, this is Good Politics with Dr. Sean Wilson and Adam Whiteman.